Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to give you an overview about the semantic layer and the semantic enrichment capabilities, which we are bringing in IBM Knowledge Catalog. So as you know, IBM Knowledge Catalog or IKC, we have the ability to ingest metadata and then enrich metadata. With the semantic layer, we are now leveraging the large language models and the generative AI capabilities to enrich the metadata. So in very briefly, the three different kind of enrichments we will provide is the first is the expanding the cryptic names. So when we ingest the metadata from different data sources to IKC, so many times those that metadata can be very cryptic. The names of the columns or the table names may be not very readable or not very clear to the end users. So with this the semantic layer, we can leverage the user-defined domain-specific glossary to make these cryptic names more readable. And in addition to that, in addition to the user-defined glossary, we also have some internal inbuilt intelligence where it can expand some common abbreviations or acronyms and then expand those names. And I will demo you in next section. Once our names are expanded, then we take those names and then feed it to the Granite 13B model, which is hosted on the What's Next AI. And then, and this is a custom model which is trained on our CDO data, and so it understands the metadata concept. So this model then uses the names generated from the previous steps. It understands the context of these columns, and then it provides a more meaningful description to the columns and the tables. And this makes it very convenient for our data scientists to use these data assets in their projects. Now, since we have the more meaningful descriptions and names generated, we will then feed it to our Slate model to assign the domain specific concepts to this metadata. So we use the semantic matching capability of to semantically match the names to the terms. And the way we do it is we use the encoder model Slate model to create the embeddings of the incoming metadata and then match it against the embeddings of the terms or the glossaries which are defined by the users. So this way we we match the terms not just on the linguistic name matching, but by semantically understanding. And again, I will show you some examples for this. So let's switch to the demo. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I have my project and I will show, I'll start with the settings section. So this is my project where we can define the settings for these three different capabilities. So if you come here, you have the generated names. You can define the two thresholds. So these are the thresholds which is one is the suggested threshold. So anything above this threshold will be, or between the assigned threshold and the suggested threshold will be used as a suggestion. So whenever the names are expanded, if the confidence score is above this threshold but below the assigned, then those names will become as like a suggested names. Anything above the assignment threshold will be automatically assigned as a name to these metadata. So if you don't like automatically assignment, you can actually change it to 100% so that nothing from the AI gets automatically assigned. And then we have the same thing for the descriptions. You can have different thresholds and the same for the term assignments. Now for the term assignments in IKC, we already had our three different types of term assignments. The machine learning, which was understanding the previous positive and negative term assignment. Then the data class based assignment, which leverages the profiling results. It actually profiles the data in the tables and then classify that data and then assign the terms based on the relationships between data classes and the terms. And then the linguistic term matching. I have purposely deselected this, but you can select any combination of these term assignments. But here we are more focused on the semantic layer, so I chose the generative AI capabilities. So once I have these settings defined, then I'll go here and I will create a term metadata enrichment job. And here we will select the assets from our projects, which I have already ingested. And in the next step is where we select the different objectives. And I'm not going to select the profiling data because this is a tile where we are using the semantic capabilities. So I will select this and then I will select the terms, which is which will be assigned based on the previous assignments, the algorithm which is selected in the settings. Then I'll select the different glossary for my enrichments. And that's pretty much, so that is what will be used for the metadata enrichment. Now this is going to take few seconds to run the job. While the job is running, let me show you what I have already enriched. So if I go to the metadata enrichment section and then let's see this one. Okay, so here I will show you the each capability one by one. So let me start with this. So this is some Excel sheet I have created manually, but here you see all these names are like abbreviations, and we are using the semantic expansion capability, which has the inbuilt intelligence to expand these names to the more like competitor timestamp. So this is now automatically expanded and giving more meaning to these names, right? Um, so this is coming from the semantic layer. Now let's go. I want to show you something more on the same lines about the semantic expansions. But here now we are not using the inbuilt dictionary, but I have defined the terms which are used, which are the glossary terms, because these are the more specific, domain specific, SAP specific names. And based on my domain terms, these are then fuzzily matched and expanded. So this again shows the semantic capabilities here. Now, once we have it, now let's move on and let's look at some of these assets and the generated descriptions. And then we will dig deeper into the columns and which is more interested, right? So it's like list of employees, property, sales data. So these are the descriptions which are coming from the model. But let's look into the columns, which is more interesting because when we pass the columns to the Granite model, it understands, it looks up and down on the different columns, the neighboring columns, and that's accordingly then assigns the or generates the descriptions for this. So for example, here, right, this is the email address, the name is the same, but here it expanded it to email address of the customer. Here it is the employee email address, right? So it understands this email address belongs to this employee data. So those are the context sensitive descriptions. Similarly, this is more interesting that these are all IDs, which if somebody have to look at it may not make any sense, but here it is customer identifier, here it is identifier of the account, and here it is identifier for the each property. So it then expands it based on the context, and this can then further be used in the governance and the assignment of terms, right? Marital status of the customer, its employees' marital status. So those are some of the differences, like how the model is using the intelligent way to describe these columns, which may not be very obvious otherwise. For example, the countries, all that is now expanded, right, according to the context. Now, once we have these display names and description generated, now if we were if we had to map these to the terms in absence of the semantic capabilities, then it will be not very semantically matched, right? So what I mean by that is, for example, um, let me look into, for example, this one, right? So this is email address, and let's see what is the governance, the term assignments here. So the emails or address, okay, this can probably be matched on the name matching algorithm. But then this is the contact information, which is not something with our traditional algorithm will pick up. But this is a generic umbrella bucket, right? And because of the semantics of the term matching, it can actually match this term to this metadata. And then you can have some rules which saying that, okay, if there is a contact information, then have these kind of data protection rules, right? So that can be then generally applied to different information like phone numbers and email addresses. So that is the semantic term assignment capability. And now let's see that how the people will make use of it or review these, right? So once this data is, so you see these are the suggested data, which users can then go, and then they can, for example, if I go there, if they are happy with these, then they can either change these descriptions or they can assign these new descriptions here. Like if this description is not there, we can have a description created. But if the users are happy here, they can also accept this description and it can be automatically assigned to this metadata. Uh, and same thing is for the display names. If the display names are happy, they can either edit these display names and give, if they don't like it, or they can accept those display names like these and say that, yes, this is good. So that then that is the review process, right? So not everything which is AI generated may make sense. So that is the review that gives the ability to the users to review and accept this data. Currently, this is one at a time, but we are working on the next enhancements to make it more bulk, where you can accept or reject these AI generated metadata, which is coming next. Now, once this data is accepted, the other thing is all this semantically enriched metadata, which is approved and accepted, will be indexed. So for example, once I accept this term, and now if I search for identifier of the customer, this these values will also be indexed in our Elasticsearch index, and then it can be searched, right? So for example, we have the contact information, right? Actually, that maybe I did not accept it, so maybe that we'll see if that can come. Okay, yes. So in another projects, right? So this customer, if I open this customer is now, we are able to identify that it has the contact information based on the semantically term assignments which was assigned to it. So that's the value of the semantic layer, so that you can expand the metadata. You can then assign the concepts to it. And then in addition to that, then you can search on these assignments or the enriched metadata. And then also you can assign the data protection rules on these enriched metadata. So that is essentially what the semantic layer brings in. And I will pause here.